So good morning or good evening to those who are in Taiwan. We come back to webinars after in-person conferences where we had wonderful sessions about Taiwan and Tai Ji Men. And speaking of in-person conferences, we will start with a video on the participation of Tai Ji Men to the World Conference on Religious Dialogue in Strumica, North Macedonia.
From June 19 to 22, 2024, the Center for Intercultural Studies and Research at the Faculty of Philosophy, SS Cyril and Methodius University in Skopje, North Macedonia, hosted the Second World Conference for Religious Dialogue and Cooperation. The theme, Religion and Politics, Is Secularization a Myth or Reality?, sparked profound reflections and discussions among the participants. This year's conference saw about 50 renowned professors and researchers from over 20 countries discussing a wide range of topics from religious, cultural, political, historical, and social perspectives. The primary focus was on the interaction between religion and society, religious freedom, cultural diversity, and spiritual revival. On the third day of the conference, a session moderated by Rosita Shorit from the European Federation for Freedom of Belief concentrated on the global impact of Taiwanese spiritual movements and issues of religious freedom. Experts from various fields and 3 representatives from Tai Ji Men shared their research findings and insights, addressing topics from the persecution of Tai Ji Men to the relationship of religion and legal norms. Tai Ji Men's unique culture of conscience, its global impact, and its prolonged political persecution left a profound impression on Western audiences. Professor Salvatore Costanza from the National University of Athens in Greece expressed his amazement, saying he was deeply impressed by the master-disciple relationship in Tai Ji Men, which reminded him of the relationship between the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates and his students. Professor Nora from the Polytechnic University of Milan in Italy enthusiastically remarked that she was greatly impressed by Tai Ji Men's martial arts performances, finding them truly spectacular. The psychotherapist and psychiatrist Angelina Ilievska from North Macedonia was moved and stated that this was the most remarkable presentation of the conference. After watching the breathtaking martial arts performances from the 2017 Summer Universiade video, she expressed a strong desire to facilitate a cultural exchange of martial arts. This global gathering of wisdom showed the deep connections and the importance of dialogue between religions and cultures. Through these discussions will bring greater understanding and consensus to global society. Reporter Ai Ping Guo reporting live from North Macedonia.
Okay, we even have some dances, but happily they cut before, as they say, it was too late. And so I will now offer some remarks on our team, which is the United Nations International Day of Parliamentarism. And I will return to an old and much debated question. What was the first parliament in history? If you go to Iceland, they would say it was their Alþingi or Alting, which dates back to the year 930 CE. However, the Alþingi in Iceland and other early parliaments only included the representatives of the aristocracy and the clergy, not the common people, and they were not a representative legislative branch clearly separated from the executive and judiciary powers. For these reasons, several scholars, and officially the UNESCO, regard as the first parliament the Cortes of the Spanish Kingdom of Leon, one of the independent states that later merged into Spain. This parliament was summoned by King Alfonso IX in 1188 in the Basilica of San Isidoro in the city of Leon. It was the first parliament that included representatives of non-aristocrat citizens and enacted laws. The fact that commoners were later excluded did not change this historical fact. What I want to mention today is the crucial connection between the birth of parliaments and taxes. No taxation without representation is the most famous slogan of the American Revolution, although it had been used before in the United Kingdom. It means that taxes imposed without passing through a parliament, where taxpayers are represented by their elected representatives, is a form of tyranny. However, the sentence "no taxation without representation" was first used at the beginning of the 17th century by a Spanish Jesuit Catholic priest and historian, Juan de Mariana, who thus summarized the main result of the Leon Parliament of 1188. He noted that those who attended the Cortes of Leon agreed that the king had no right to create taxes without the approval of the representatives of the people. Scholars have found an influence of the Cortes of Leon when the same principle became part of the British Magna Carta in 1225. The violation of this principle by Spanish kings generated revolts in Spain and later in Latin America. The principle was also connected with peace, and the Parliament of Leon legislated that the king cannot start a war without parliamentary approval, since wars normally increase the tax burden on citizens. We can thus see that since its very beginning, at the core of parliamentarism was the idea that the legislative power, the parliament, should be the arbiter of taxpayers' rights and the institutional seat where critical questions about taxes can be solved. It is important to reflect on this principle, which is at the very origin of parliamentarism, when we discuss the Tai Ji Men case. The Parliament of Taiwan, called the Legislative Yuan, held hearings and discussed the Tai Ji Men case many times. According to an article published in July 2021 by 3 Taiwanese scholars, before the date of their article, quote, over 300 legislators from different parties had been using different methods, such as conducting endorsements, proposing bills, coordinating meetings, as well as holding interpellation sessions, press conferences, and public hearings, directly pointing out the Taxation Bureau's violations of law and demanding the National Taxation Bureau to revoke the tax bills against Tai Ji Men. As we know, this concerned in particular the tax bill for the year 1992, which tax authorities decided to maintain after tax bills for all the other years had been corrected to zero, based on the technical argument that for 1992, a final decision has been rendered and no further appeal was possible. Obviously, how Tai Ji Men operated in 1992 was not different from the other years, and it is a general legal principle that obviously wrong decisions can always be revised. The Legislative Yuan held a public hearing on June 17, 2010, where the then Deputy Minister of Finance, Shang Shenfor, and the National Taxation Bureau for the Central Area agreed to withdraw the enforcement for the 1992 tax bill and to resolve the Tai Ji Men case within 2 months. After the public hearing, Finance Minister Li wrote to 3 legislators, Tian Shuqin, Tu Xingye, and Justin Chou, stating that he had asked the National Taxation Bureau for the Central Area to solve the case without delay. However, these commitments were not honored, and the hearings and other meetings at the Legislative Yuan were ignored. This was an egregious example of the modern attitude of tax bureaucrats and even governments, which expropriate the parliaments of their rights to be the ultimate arbiters in controversial tax issues and on taxpayers' rights. The historical origin of parliamentarism in the Cortes of Leon demonstrates that the matter of taxes is not one among many parliaments have both the right and the duty to regulate. It is the core of their functions. It is the function that led parliaments to be born. It is one without which democracies die. No taxation without representation. The Tai Ji Men case should be taken away from bureaucrats and returned to politics. And after this introduction, we will now hear other points of view. The first from Davide Suleiman Amore, lecturer in history and literature at IS D'Annunzio in Sicily, member of CISR and secretary of the Islamic Association As-Salam. Dr. Amore, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me in this session. I will talk about the parliament, the institution of the Islamic Shura, and the way that parliamentarism and Islamic Shura that stand out as the significant concepts that have shaped democratic and consultative governance systems. These concepts should help solving the Tai Ji Men case too. The Islamic Shura, or consultation, is a fundamental principle in Islamic governance derived from the Quran and the practices of Prophet Muhammad. The concept emphasizes collective decision-making and mutual consultation among members of the community. Shura is explicitly mentioned in Quran 42:38. The name of the surah is Surah Ashura, exactly, where it is highlighted as a trait of a Muslim community. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالَّذِينَ أَسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Those who respond to their Lord and establish the prayer and manage their affairs by mutual consultation and spend from what we have provided for them. Historically, the practice of the Shura was institutionalized in various forms in Islamic states. The early caliphs of Islam often sought the counsel of knowledgeable and respected members of the community before making significant decisions. This consultative process aimed to ensure that governance was just and aligned with the principles of Islam. In contemporary times, the concept of shura has influenced the political system of several Muslim-majority countries, inspiring efforts to integrate Islamic principles with modern democratic practices. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran have incorporated elements of shura in their governance, although the extent and form of its implementation vary widely. Parliamentarism, a system of democratic governance in which the executive branch derives its legitimacy from and is accountable to the legislature, parliament, has deep historical roots. Its origins can be traced back to medieval Europe. The English Parliament, established in the 13th century, is often considered the oldest in continuous operation. It emerged from the early councils and assemblies summoned by monarchs to seek advice and consent on crucial matters, particularly taxation. Over time, this body evolved, gaining more power and eventually leading to constitutional change like the Magna Carta in 1215, which limited the powers of the king and laid the groundwork for modern parliamentary democracy. Parliamentarism spread globally during the 19th and 20th centuries, often through colonization and the influence of the British Empire. Countries adopted and adapted the system to fit the unique historical and cultural context. Key features of parliamentarism include a clear separation of powers, regular elections, and a system of checks and balances that ensure the government remains accountable to the people. The concept of Western parliaments primarily originates from the medieval European tradition. The English Parliament, which, as we said, began to take shape in the 13th century, is one of the oldest examples. The principles of representative democracy, the separation of powers, and the rule of law are foundational elements in Western parliamentary systems. These ideas were significantly influenced by Enlightenment thinkers and the political revolutions in the 17th and 18th centuries. Shura, on the other hand, is rooted in Islamic tradition and jurisprudence. Its principles are derived from the Quran and the practices of the Prophet Muhammad. Shura emphasizes mutual consultation and collective decision-making with an aim to ensure that governance aligns with the Islamic teachings and the welfare of the community. Western parliamentary systems typically feature a bicameral or unicameral legislature composed of elected representatives. The structure includes an upper house, like the Senate, and the lower house, like the House of Representatives or Commons, each with distinct roles and powers. Members of Parliament are elected by the public through regular competitive elections. The structure of shura can vary widely depending on the country and its interpretation of Islamic principles. Shura councils may consist of appointed or elected members, including scholars, community leaders, and experts. The process of selection and the composition of shura councils can be influenced by both traditional and modern considerations, aiming to represent various segments of the community while adhering to Islamic values. Decision-making in Western parliaments is typically formalized through legislative procedures, including debates, committee reviews, and voting. Laws and policies are proposed, debated, amended, and passed through a majority vote. The process is designed to be transparent and accountable to the electorate. Shura, the other hand, operates through a consultative process where decisions are made based on consensus or majority opinion, with a strong emphasis on achieving communal harmony and justice. The decision-making process is guided by Islamic principles and the advice of knowledgeable individuals. The goal is to ensure that outcomes are in accordance with the Sharia, the Islamic law. In most Western parliamentary systems, there is a clear separation of religion and the state. While individual members may be influenced by their personal beliefs, laws and policies are generally secular and are intended to apply universally regardless of religious affiliation. Shura is inherently tied to Islamic religious principles. The guidance provided by Shura councils is expected to align with the Quran, Hadith, sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad, and other sources of Islamic jurisprudence. Religious considerations are central to the decision-making process, and the aim is to ensure that governance adheres to Islamic values. The Tai Ji Men case is a notable example of modern struggles for justice and human rights within existing legal and political frameworks. Tai Ji Men is a spiritual and cultural organization in Taiwan practicing Qigong, martial arts, and self-cultivation, legally established in 1966 by Dr. Hong Tao Tse. It promotes values of peace, love, and conscience. In 1996, Tai Ji Men was subjected to politically motivated legal prosecution involving allegations of tax evasion and fraud. Despite subsequent court rulings in favor of Tai Ji Men, recognizing it as a non-profit organization that had systematic corruption, the protected legal battle has drawn attention to issues of religious freedom, human rights, taxpayers' rights, and the abuse of state power. The Tai Ji Men case underscores the ongoing challenges faced by minority groups and spiritual organizations in asserting their rights within the legal and political system. It also highlights the importance of judicial independence, fair governance, and the protection of human rights in any society. That said, integrating Western parliamentarism with Islamic Shura could offer a balanced approach to resolving the Tai Ji Men case by combining democratic accountability with ethical and communal consideration. To address the Tai Ji Men case, a joint legislative and consultative committee could be established, merging the strengths of both systems. From the Western parliamentary perspective, this committee would ensure transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law, involving a bipartisan group of legislators. On the Islamic Shura side, respected Taiwanese community leaders and scholars, including those of the local Muslim community and experts, may provide ethical advice, ensuring that decisions align with the communal values and principles of justice and equity inherent in Islam and accepted by many other religions and cultures. Mainly, seeking reconciliation and restorative justice could further resolve the conflict. Western mechanisms for reconciliation, such as mediation or restorative justice programs, could promote an amicable resolution. The Shura approach would emphasize forgiveness, restitution, and the restoration of relationships, reflecting the values of compassion and justice emphasized by Islam. Finally, ensuring ongoing monitoring and review would be essential. From a parliamentary perspective, a monitoring body could oversee the implementation of the committee's recommendations and ensure compliance with legal standards. In the Shura tradition, engaging community leaders and scholars in ongoing review would ensure the resolution remains just and beneficial to all the parties involved. In conclusion, the evolution of governance through parliamentarism and Islamic Shura illustrates humanity's pursuit of justice, accountability, and inclusive decision-making. While parliamentarism has shaped modern democracies in its structured legislative system, Islamic Shura offers a consultative model grounded in religious principles. The Tai Ji Men case, meanwhile, serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring need to protect human rights and ensure just governance. As societies continue to evolve, these diverse governance principles provide valuable lessons for building more equitable and inclusive political systems. By combining the procedural rigor and accountability of Western parliamentaries with the ethical and communal focus of the Islamic Shura, this integrated approach could address the Tai Ji Men case comprehensively, ensuring justice, fairness, and respect for human rights. Thank you, 谢谢.
Thanks to Davide Suleiman Amore, which as usual proposes us a comparison between Western institutions, which have been exported to many countries, including Taiwan, and the Islamic approach to social justice, whose universal values may be useful in many cases, including in the Tai Ji Men case in Taiwan. But now we return to the West with comments by Peter Zörer, who is an Austrian journalist and also the executive director of Forum for Religious Freedom Europe. So Peter, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about democracy and parliamentarianism in relation to Tai Ji Men. The topic of my presentation will be advocacy through media, the Tai Ji Men case, and democratic accountability. Democracy and parliamentarianism are foundational pillars of modern governance, promising transparency, accountability, and peaceful conflict resolution. However, their robustness is tested when these systems interact with unique cultural or spiritual groups. The Tai Ji Men case, involving a Taiwanese spiritual and martial arts organization, vividly illuminates these challenges. The democracy has its complexities. At its core, democracy empowers the people, either directly or through elected representatives, and is grounded in principles of political equality, the rule of law, and individual rights. Parliamentarianism, a variant of democracy, features an executive branch accountable to the legislature, emphasizing checks and balances and the role of elected officials in crafting and enforcing laws. These principles aim to foster a transparent, accountable, and inclusive system that resolves conflicts peacefully and protects minority rights. However, implementing these principles is fraught with challenges. Corruption, power abuses, and the marginalization of minorities can severely undermine democratic fairness and effectiveness. Numerous instances worldwide highlight these vulnerabilities, including the Tai Ji Men case. Legally established in 1966 by Dr. Hong Tao-tse, Tai Ji Men Qigong Academy integrates martial arts with traditional Chinese culture and self-cultivation practices for holistic well-being. Despite its positive impact and international acclaim, Tai Ji Men has faced relentless legal and political challenges. In 1996, a Taiwanese prosecutor accused the organization of tax evasion and other charges, leading to a protracted legal battle that raises serious concerns about the fairness and integrity of Taiwan's legal and political systems. Central to the dispute are allegations of unpaid taxes, on monetary gifts from members, which Tai Ji Men asserts are voluntary donations exempt from taxation due to their religious and traditional nature. Despite numerous court rulings, including from the Supreme Court, affirming that no tax evasion occurred, tax authorities continued to pursue the case, inflicting ongoing financial and reputational damage on the organization. Now, I'd like to talk about key issues that are highlighted by the Tai Ji Men case. First, challenges for cultural minorities. Cultural and spiritual minorities often face significant challenges within legal and political systems that may not fully understand or respect their practices. This struggle is not unique to Taiwan. It is a common issue in many democracies worldwide. Minority groups frequently struggle for fair treatment and recognition, as is seen in numerous European countries. Secondly, the abuse of state power. The persistence of tax authorities in pursuing the Tai Ji Men case, despite multiple court rulings in favor of the organization, highlights the potential abuse of power. This raises serious questions about the adequacy of safeguards for individual and group rights within the democratic frameworks. It underscores the importance of having robust mechanisms to prevent governmental overreach and ensure that all branches of government respect judicial decisions. Thirdly, the role of the judiciary. The repeated court rulings in favor of Tai Ji Men underscore the judiciary's crucial role in upholding justice and protecting rights. However, the persistent actions of the tax authorities reveal the limitations of judicial decisions when executive agencies fail to comply. A robust democracy hinges on strict adherence to the rule of law by all institutions. The judiciary must not only deliver fair judgments, but also ensure that these judgments are respected and enforced by other branches of government. Now, I'd like to mention something about mobilizing the media and coalitions for change. To address the challenges highlighted by the Tai Ji Men case effectively, mainstream and social media, alongside with interreligious coalitions, can play crucial roles. First, media engagement. Media outlets should actively cover cases like Tai Ji Men to inform the public about the challenges faced by cultural and spiritual minorities. In Taiwan, which ranks 27th in the Press Freedom Index in 2024, that index covers, from Reporters Without Borders, covers 180 countries. Journalists can leverage this relatively high degree of press freedom to report on such cases. So, comparatively, Taiwan is in a good ranking. This ranking is notably 5 places better than even Austria, illustrating Taiwan's capacity for impactful journalism. By raising awareness, the media can play a vital role in advocating for the rights of minority groups and holding government institutions accountable. We should remember that one of the basic tenets for media is speaking the truth to power. That's the basic tenet for media. Speak truth to power. Second, social media advocacy. Social media platforms can be powerful tools for advocacy, allowing individuals and groups to rally support and exert pressure on government institutions. Adhere to the rule of law. Tai Ji Men has a specific advantage with many young professionals who are digital natives, some of whom are here today with us. Online campaigns and petitions can draw international attention, encouraging democratic nations to uphold their principles. In 2022, Taiwan became an observer to the International Religious Freedom of or Belief Alliance, which works to protect religious minorities and fight discrimination. Such alliances can be bolstered by social media advocacy, amplifying the voices of marginalized groups, and promoting global solidarity. Thirdly, interreligious coalitions. Building alliances among various religious and cultural groups can offer a unified voice advocating for the rights of spiritual and cultural minorities. These coalitions can engage in dialogue with government officials, providing insights into the unique practices and beliefs of various groups, thereby fostering mutual respect and understanding. Taiwan's former president, Tsai Ing-wen, in her 2022 remarks at the International Religious Freedom or Belief Alliance Forum, emphasized the importance of protecting religious minorities and fighting discrimination. The new president, William Lai, can be held to account for the same promise. So, an important subject in this important aspect is establishing sustainable alliances. Based on the experiences of decade-long advocacy for religious freedom, one key principle for success clearly emerged: living for others. This core tenet, shared by many religious teachings, emphasizes the importance of prioritizing collective well-being over self-interest. Sustainable alliances and coalitions are most effective when they are founded on this principle. By focusing on mutual support and shared goals, diverse groups can form powerful coalitions that make a lasting impact on society. Thank you for listening. 谢谢.
Thank you, Peter, for these practical suggestions on what can still be done in Taiwan and internationally to build coalitions and mobilizing the bona fide media to work on the Tai Ji Men case. And your presentation concluded the first session of our webinar and opened the way to the second session, which will be chaired by Willy Fautré, who is co-founder and director of Human Rights Without Frontiers, the co-organizer together with CESNUR of this webinar. So I pass the podium to Willy Fautré.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for giving me the floor now. So the second session, of course, will be, as usual, devoted to the DISI and the way that they perceive the special UN Day dedicated today to parliamentarism and democracy and the Tai Ji Men case. But first of all, we will have a video before I give them the floor.
Peace, love, and tax reform. Tai Ji Men at CESNUR conference in Bordeaux. At the CESNUR 2024 conference in Bordeaux, France, scholars and Tai Ji Men DISI from around the world gathered to discuss the Tai Ji Men case and its fight for tax reform. Massimo Introvig honored Pierluigi Zoccatelli and discussed Tai Ji Men's fight for legal and tax reform in Taiwan. Then in the afternoon session, which was chaired by Eileen Barker, Carolina Maria Katkowska emphasized the political motivation behind Tai Ji Men's tax issues in Taiwan. Linda Chen compared DNA adaptation to society's need for balance, advocating for conscience. The other academic in the medical field, Lara Huang, highlighted the slander against Tai Ji Men, stressing patience and peace. Camelia Marin pointed out the weaponization of legal systems against spiritual movements. Stella Lin shared stories of tax victims in Taiwan and the specific impact of the Tai Ji Men case on Taiwan's tax reform. Donald Westbrook discussed media prejudices and Tai Ji Men's outreach efforts. Joyce Wong reflected on how Tai Ji Men helped her understanding. Digital technology may be used to help our fellow human beings and alleviate their suffering. Rebecca Wong recounted Dr. Hong's speech and global travels promoting peace and love. Being a volunteer of Tax and Legal Reform League is also to create a more harmonious and peaceful world. Peggy Chen is the daughter of one of the detained, Dizzy. This tragic experience motivated Peggy to continue her fight for justice. Then Alessandro Amicarelli spoke on scholarly efforts to understand and resolve the Tai Ji Men case. The participants listened attentively and actively engaged in discussions, demonstrating a deep concern for the case. Sam Nagasaka from the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification raised a question about the Tai Ji Men case, noting his unfamiliarity with it but mentioning the 2022 U.S. State Department report on Taiwan and its international religious freedom. He inquired about changes in the Taiwanese government stance over the past 2 years. Peggy responded, emphasizing that while making laws is important, their implementation is crucial, and unfortunately, no significant changes have occurred. Massimo added that the situation mirrors Japan, where political considerations often exclude religious liberty cases in strategic ally countries like Taiwan. In a reflective moment, Eileen asked what the next steps would be if the Tai Ji Men case were resolved. Peggy emphasized the importance of promoting peace, love, and human rights, stating that resolving the case would allow them to focus more on their global mission without fear. Linda added that Dr. Hong's vision included establishing Tai Ji Men academies worldwide to promote overall health and Qigong practice. She lamented that the ongoing case had hindered the expansion of these academies, which could have been helping more people globally by now. The CESNUR 2024 conference provided an eye-opening experience for those discovering the Tai Ji Men case, while reinforcing the commitment of others to support Tai Ji Men's quest for justice.
Yeah, thank you very much with this overview that is very useful concerning the Tai Ji Men case in a global environment and also in relation to democracy and parliamentarism. And now, before giving the floor to the disease, I will make a short introduction. I see that they announced the first speaker, but I've planned an introduction, so I will start. Yeah. So the International Day of Parliamentarism was established in 2018 through a UN General Assembly resolution, which recognized the role of parliaments in national plans and global strategies. The date of 30 June was chosen because it was the day when the Interparliamentary Union, a global organization of parliaments, was founded in 1889. It was created 130 years ago, 35 years ago, on the initiative of two parliamentarians and men of peace, William Randall Kramer from the United Kingdom and Frédéric Passy from France. The Interparliamentary Union was the first permanent forum for political multilateral negotiations. Parliaments serve as the primary institution where the voices of the citizens are represented. They play a crucial role in lawmaking and ensuring that laws reflect the needs and aspirations of the people. By holding the government accountable, parliaments help prevent abuses of power and promote transparency and good governance. Parliaments are central to the functioning of democracies. They provide a platform for debate, discussion, and decision-making on national policies. Parliaments help ensure that the executive branch of the government operates within the boundaries set by law and adheres to democratic principles. The International Day of Parliamentarism is meant to highlight the pivotal role the parliaments play in representing the will of the people, ensuring government accountability and upholding democratic principles. This day is also an opportunity to underscore the connection between parliamentarianism and the protection of human rights. Now, what is the situation of human rights in the light of parliamentary democracy in Taiwan? Earlier this year, there were elections in Taiwan, which were worldwide hailed as fair and democratic like the previous ones. A few months ago, the well-known human rights NGO, Reporters Without Borders, published its annual country report about freedom of expression and freedom of the media in the world. Taiwan, which was ranked in the 35th position last year, jumped to the 27th position this year. The protection of religious liberty in Taiwan is internationally recognized as impressive and even considered better than in a number of democracies in Europe. Tai Ji Men has always been at the forefront of teaching its views about democracy, the rule of law, and human rights in theory and in practice. But it has also been constructively critical with regard to the abuses of power of the National Tax Administration in Taiwan they were a victim of, like many others. Young Tai Ji Men Dizzy massively support democracy in Taiwan, but they also use it to defend their rights and the rights of others. For years, they have used their freedom of expression and assembly to denounce the harassment of their movement by the National Tax Administration since 1996. Now about the new Taiwanese government and the Tai Ji Men case, I also have some reflections. On this UN Day of Parliamentarism, it is the duty of the Taiwanese parliament, the government, and in particular, the Minister of Finance to listen to the voices of the Tai Ji Men Dizzy raised through legal channels, public demonstrations, protests, and petitions. Only a political decision in Taiwan could solve the unresolved case, Tai Ji Men case, which worriedly tarnishes the image of the country abroad. But in the past, there was never any political will on the part of the Minister of Finance and the government, even after the final decision of the Supreme Court in favor of Tai Ji Men. And since then, either to discipline the National Tax Bureau. Mr. Su Jianrong, you have been the Minister of Finance for a few months. The tax administration is under your authority and not the opposite. Please be the first Minister of Finance who will have the political will and courage to solve the 28-year-old Tai Ji Men case by taking a landmark decision. Thank you, and I hope you will hear my message. And now I will give the floor to the first dizzy, Bobby Chen. The floor is yours. He's an artist.
Thank you so much, Willie, for starting off here. Greetings to our dear friends, scholars, who have been tirelessly advocating for human rights. It's very nice to see everyone again, and all dear global citizens who have gathered here today. Greetings. My name is Bobby Chen, and I'm a story artist operating internationally online. I translate details of life into impactful visual stories to spread positive energy. In addition to my artistic pursuits, I'm a dedicated human rights and peace activist and a lifetime volunteer of various human rights and peace-related NGOs. All this, my journey, has been significantly influenced by the teaching of Tai Ji Men Dr. Hong Daozi, a unique life mentor and a shifu of our loving Tai Ji Men family. As we all know, Dr. Hong's teaching emphasized on conscience. He has taught me that for a nation to be great, to unite its people, and to be truly loved, it must embrace the simplest yet deepest values, doing the right thing, doing the good things, and being truthful. These principles, though simple, have profound implication. As we gather here to celebrate International Day of Parliamentarism, we recognize the importance of these values in our parliamentary system. When a government embodies these values, it becomes a beacon of peace and love and earning the genuine trust and support of its citizens. A government that ceases to sin, that acts with integrity and justice, will find its people relieved of bearing the burden of these shared sin. Such a government sets a powerful example for its people, showing that doing the right thing, doing good thing, and the truthful thing is the path to national harmony and prosperity. However, we face significant challenges. When governments stray from these principles, when a government is untruthful, makes decisions driven by selfish greed, or chooses wrongly, the nation suffers. Dr. Hong taught me one very important treasure. Dr. Hong taught me and all Tai Ji Men Dizi to identify these evils using the remarkable instrument that we all have. It's a gift. It's conscience. It's an instrument inside every one of us. Conscience helps us distinguish right from wrong, truth from falsehood, and good from bad. Yet, when blinded by evil, even the most straightforward moral choices become difficult. So honing the skill to shine the conscience brightly is a marvelous task with definite honorable effects. It makes a person take the best path with the best outcome. The 1219 incident is a stark reminder of this. It exemplifies how deeply ingrained evils can obscure our judgment and lead to widespread harm. Many Tai Ji Men Dizi have suffered from the 1219 incident, causing not only one, but many their lives under the government's officials' illegal, selfish acts. However, every crisis is an opportunity for reflection and improvement, both for the individuals and the whole nation. We should not underestimate the shared sins people would have to bear from a bad, wrongful, untruthful government choice. Such choices have tremendous negative impacts, not only on the lives of many people, but also on nature and the entire world. For example, Taiwan's 1219 incident and the White Terror period highlighted abuses of power that infringed on civil rights and even led to the loss of innocent lives. Additionally, the 2009 Typhoon Morocco disaster exacerbated the government's inadequate response, and it resulted in a very significant loss of life and property. These unconscious burdens bring disasters to the nation and taking many lives away. Parliaments, as the voice of the people, are responsible for passing laws, approving budgets, and holding the government accountable. However, incidents like the promotion of prosecutor Hou Kuan-ren, despite evidence of corruption and abuse of power, highlights the need for vigilant and ethical parliamentary oversight. His rise to positions such as Deputy Director General of the Agency Against Corruption, it is ironically, and Director General of the Institute of Forensic Medicine raises serious concerns about Taiwan's parliament's effectiveness in preventing such evils. Parliamentarism embodies a nation's collective conscience and must act decisively to correct wrongs and promote justice without pride or malice. Dr. Hong's teaching reminds us that to improve, we must confront evil with honesty and courage. Consistently doing what is right, good, truthful, allows us to become our best selves, the real us, the most natural us, with no hiding, no dodging, a confident and authentic self. Inspiring more people, especially the youth, to engage in parliamentary process is vital. Our youth are the future, and their involvement ensures the values of integrity, goodness, and truthfulness are upheld. The New Zealand Parliament's bold steps towards environmental sustainability and social justice, and also Singapore's effective governance, marked by stability, efficiency, and low corruption, serve as exemplary models. Particularly, the recent Singapore Parliament on AI disruption session, if anyone has seen it, was a clear demonstration of how well organized and respectful their parliamentary process is. They clearly, systematically identify the problems that need solving. Unlike Taiwan's parliament, which often descends into a chaotic, disrespectful mess, which is world-renowned. So yes, in contrast, Taiwan's parliament faces challenges due to partisans, conflicts, and lack of cooperation. We must stop blindly supporting political parties and truly understand and address our country's issues. Otherwise, we become guilty bystanders, allowing wrongdoings to continue. This underscores Dr. Hong's teaching on recognizing right from wrong, good from bad, and truth from falsehood. Let us honor the principle of right, good, and truthfulness in every decision we make. It all starts from each of our conscience. By doing so, we can build nations that are united, loved, and truly great. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and thank you, Bobby, for stressing that the youth is the future of a nation, and for encouraging them to vote when there are elections, not to be bystanders. But this is only a first step. The second step is to examine which party and which candidate proposes what, and if in the past they have done what they had promised. Too often nowadays, parties and candidates have strategies just to gain power, but not to implement what they pledge. So everybody should vote according to his or her conscience. Thank you very much for your contribution. And now we will give the floor to Sienna Ling, a graduate student.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sienna. I'm a graduate student and also a Tai Ji Men 弟子. I used to be really shy and lack confidence. I will often doubt myself and feel stressed because I cared much about what others thought of me. I'm grateful to my Sifu for teaching me how to calm my mind. This has helped me learn to talk to myself, let go of my anxiety, and feel happier. The positive encouragement and support from Tai Ji Men brothers and sisters have made me braver and more confident in speaking in front of people. So today, I'm honored to be part of this webinar and share my thoughts on Taiwan's democracy and the Tai Ji Men case. So as we know, Parliament is formed by citizens through a free and equal election process to choose their representative. It provides a structured platform where debates and negotiations can take place to peacefully resolve social conflicts. Therefore, the citizens of a parliament reflect the importance of democracy in a country. Looking back at the history of Taiwan Parliament, Taiwan experienced a long period of Japanese colonial rule, influenced by the trend of national self-determination. Some young intellectuals submit the petition for the establishment of a Taiwanese parliament to the Japanese authorities, trying to set up a self-governed parliament in Taiwan. Although they didn't fully achieve their goal, their commitment to peace and nonviolence and their effort to push for social reform in a legal and rational way laid a solid foundation for the development of democracy in Taiwan. I firmly believe that the unwavering effort of our forebears have allowed us to enjoy freedom, human rights, and a diversified political culture. However, despite being held as a beacon of democracy in Asia, Taiwan still faces instances where people have to contend with abuse of power. A vivid example is the Tai Ji Men case, which began in 1996 due to political repression and hasn't been redressed to this day. Zi Yuesen, a former tax officer, often stated previous to his passing that the entire Tai Ji Men case was orchestrated by prosecutor Ho Kuan-ren, who even asked him to provide false testimony. This baseless and wrongful persecution has severely harmed the reputation and religious freedom of Tai Ji Men Sifu and Dizi. The establishment of a parliamentary system is meant to prevent conflict and build peace through constructive dialogue and helping society bridge barriers. Although Taiwan Supreme Court has ruled in 2007 that Tai Ji Men was not guilty and owed no taxes, and over 300 legislators publicly supporting Tai Ji Men and repeat raising this issue in the legislative yuan. The case hasn't been redressed. The Tai Ji Men case has also been brought before the United Nations Human Rights Council 9 times, highlighting it as a significant international issue concerning religious persecution. Despite the support from home and abroad, the 28 years long Tai Ji Men case is yet to be truly redressed, nor has the offending officials acknowledged their wrongdoing or apologized. Due to this case, several Tai Ji Men property has been illegal, confiscated, and are now ruined and unusable, such as the Swiss Mountain Villa and the Lailan Street Academic in Kaohsiung. Furthermore, the secret land intended for a self-cultivation center in Miaoli was illegally auctioned off and nationalized by the National Taxation Bureau and the Administrative and Enforcement Agency in 2020. This example, along with decades-long struggle of Tai Ji Men Sifu and Dizi, repeatedly demonstrate the lingering effect of authoritarianism, infringement on human rights, and Taiwan's parliament has evidently failed to effectively oversee government action and protect citizens' rights, revealing significant setbacks in Taiwan's democracy and human rights. One of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. The quote from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato hold different interpretations depending on the different era. My Sifu always reminds us that even though we are a political neutral group, we must still care about household, national, and world affairs, and also distinguish between truth and false, good and bad, right and wrong, and uphold justice and the truth. Because if we compromise with or remain silent in the face of injustice, we will lose the opportunity to shape our future and allow more innocent people to be executed. At the end of this year, the Tai Ji Men 1219 Injustice Site Monument will unveil at the Swiss Mountain Villa and the Lailan Street Academic in Kaohsiung. This monument stands as witnesses to the irreversible harm and suffering caused during the human rights persecution of the Tai Ji Men case. We hope that the new government can demonstrate leadership by reforming the tax and legal system, respecting human rights, and fully reject the Tai Ji Men case. History tells us that many great changes and progress of democracy has been achieved through persistent effort. However, even today, many people in Taiwan suffer from wrongful accusation and persecution by public authorities. As elected representatives, it is essential to strengthen legislation and implement effective oversight mechanisms to protect fundamental human rights. So today, I call on politicians and representatives of public to act with conscience, correct mistakes, implement transitional justice genuinely, and bravely defend and improve Taiwan's human rights, democracy, and freedom to let the Tai Ji Men case be truly redressed and may the value and function of the parliament be demonstrated. Let the truth of all object cases come to light and create a wonderful and happy society. Thank you.
Thank you, Sienna, for reminding us that both the phase of democracy in Taiwan, but also its dark phase. Taiwan is indeed hailed as the beacon of democracy in Asia, but the other face of the coin is less glorious. The lack of redress in the Tai Ji Men case after 28 years is the best evidence that Taiwan's successive parliaments have been unable and have failed to effectively oversee and sanction the actions of the government. As you said, to remain silent or to compromise in face of injustice is not a solution. But standing up for justice without hatred, but with conscience and forgiveness is the road to follow. Thank you very much for your contribution. And now I will give the floor to Jean Wang, Process Manager, Medical Device Technology Industry. The floor is yours, Jean.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jin. In fact, at this time last year, I happened to participate in the forum on this theme, but unfortunately, after a year, human rights persecution cases are still going on, and we need to continue to call for and speak up. I would like to offer my views from the perspective of my own work and as a Tai Ji Men Dizi, a persecution group for the belief in human rights. And now working in the medical device industry as a process manager, there is a metaphor that the medical regulatory authority is like a king and the customer is like a queen, which means that to satisfy the need of customers, it is still necessary to pass the verification of the local medical authority to ensure its safety and function. I believe that human rights violation can easily occur if those who do not act with a conscience. For example, a company that produced silicone breast implants. It was once the third largest manufacturer of breast implants in the world. In 2001, the company illegally used cheap industrial raw materials, resulting in thousands of women implanting breast prostheses and even breast cancer. This made the EU to decide to push a stricter MDR, that means medical device regulation, and even companies that has been licensed in the past will have to pass the MDR before they can continue to sell them. Therefore, to make our process comply with new regulations, we must be more rigorous in the process mechanism step to avoid any risks in all process. for most people, it's a burden because it takes more money and energy to do more things like verifications, management, documentations, inspections, maintenance, and so on. But I see it's a process and a test of conscience. So no matter how difficult the process is, I still insist on doing it well step by step, which is the business conscience and the credibility that the manufacturer should have. And this belief is that I grew in Tai Ji Men, and my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, told us to the deep root basis principles of behaving and doing things. And American reporters once saw that every Tai Ji Men dish, that is, were very well behaved. So he asked how Shifu told us. My Shifu replied that he only teach his dish one thing, and that is to teach themselves. Indeed, conscience is the compass that Shifu placed in our hearts so that we can navigate for ourselves. Everyone have an innate conscience that can also be activated. If the conscience of those in power and all parliamentary responsibilities is awakened, I believe that the parliamentary function will be activity and positive operate, and it will be correct at any time to move forward in a better direction. Instead of the sake of their own benefit, they only ask about their positions, only care about the party's will, do not ask about right or wrong, ignores the well-being of the people, and fail to fulfill their supervisory duties. In vain, a kind-hearted public welfare cultural organization has been persecuted for 28 years under Taiwan's illegal administration. 1 year ago, I cited the Tai Ji Men case as an example to explain that improvisation of Taiwan's legal retrial system, which has created a dilemma in which unjust cases cannot be reviewed, and calls on Taiwan's legislators to immediately amend the law to abolish the time limits for retrial. Now, in addition to reiterating the above appeal, I actually hope that all the peoples in Taiwan's parliament and administrative agencies can set aside a few minutes a day for themselves, calm down their minds, and check with a conscience whether what they are doing is correct. All responsibilities of the people will have elected by the people and are given the right and the responsibility to represent the people's will, and all public servants hired by the people should be based on their duties to speak for the people's well-being and supervise those licenses. It is even more necessary to actively reform the issue of the Tai Ji Men tax cases when discussing various human rights protection issues. Otherwise, everyone will face the legal and taxes crisis. So let's both views are shared with you. Thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Jean, for your comparison between medical sector in Taiwan, which had cheated with the norms imposed on the characteristics of breast implants with catastrophic consequences for many women, and the tax administration, which robbed several properties of Tai Ji Men. In the first case, it is thanks to the EU measures advocating stricter medical regulations and threatening to stop buying the medical devices produced by the companies failing to respect the EU rules that the practices change for the better. In parallel, it's time for the states supporting religious freedom and, first of all, the United States to impose on Taiwan the standards of religious freedom that they defend around the world, as it was again confirmed a few days ago by the publication of the annual country report on freedom of religion by the State Department. And now I will give the floor to Cindy Wang, a graduate student, another graduate student. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Willie. Hello, aspirant and scholar. I'm Cindy. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to participate in today's forum. Today is June 30, 2024, which is also the United Nations International Day of Parliamentarism. Parliamentary systems are at the core of a country's government structure, playing an essential role in maintaining democracy, promoting the rule of law, and protecting human rights. The soundness of parliamentary system is directly related to stability and prosperity of a country. Recently, Taiwan's legislator Yuan has frequently erupted in chaotic scenes during meetings. On May 18th, the legislator Yuan tried to handle bills related to parliamentary reform. But due to significant differences between parties, negotiations broke down 3 times, leading to several conflicts that attracted international media attention. International media have described Taiwan as a rambunctious democracy. Professor Lian Furong from Osnabrück University in Germany, who is also the initiator of Legal and Tax Reform Alliance, stated that the role of Taiwan's evil law and taxes start with the administrative unit setting up bad laws, which are then voted on by the legislator Yuan, and finally executed by the Administrative Enforcement Agency. Without starting the reform from these bad laws, justice in Taiwan is impossible. Government administrative units should plan laws and policies with the people as the main focus. If human rights and the interests of people were prioritized from the beginning, bad laws wouldn't arise. Furthermore, the national parliament carries the responsibility of public opinion. If every representative discarded partisan interests and considered the people's right carefully, bad laws wouldn't pass. Today's International Day of Parliamentarism focuses on the function of parliamentary system. Through implementing parliamentary oversight of the government agencies can prevent the abuse of power and corruption, thereby protecting the normal operation of the country and truly realizing democracy and the rule of law. The tax system is a key hub related to economic lifeline of a country, as taxes are the main source of government revenue. A fair and effective tax system can not only promote economic development, but also reduce the gap between rich and poor, enhancing the overall happiness of society. However, Taiwan's current tax system has many issues. These problems not only affect business operation and the quality of life for its citizens, but also weaken the government's fiscal capabilities. The Tai Ji Men case is a typical example of illegal taxation. This case exposed the long-term abuse of power by Taiwan's tax authorities and reflected the legislator Yuan's long-term failure in supervision government agencies. I joined Tai Ji Men since I was a child. My Shifu told us to cultivate our bodies and mind through Qigong and wisdom of yin and yang. This transforming from a shy, incompetent girl into a confident, outgoing person who can speak eloquently. I have become a completely new person. Understanding that being human is to contribute to society and the world, to do the right thing, and to help more people. However, such a wonderful Qigong martial arts group was investigated illegally by prosecutor Hou Kuanren in 1996, who fabricated evidence and witnesses to prosecute and refer to the case to the National Taxation Bureau for taxation. Therefore, the Tai Ji Men discipline have long served from legal and tax persecution by the state. The National Taxation Bureau even teamed up with the Administration Enforcement Agency to illegally auction off the land designated for Tai Ji Men's cultivation center and sending for the state. Although we have continuously voiced our concerns through various forms, taken to the street to demand justice, held forums, and implemented legal and tax advocacy reforms through practical actions, Taiwan's legal and tax system has seen very limited reforms. Marco Raspendi, executive editor of Italy's Federal Winter magazine, once said, "The corrupt bureaucrat of some department of Taiwanese government deprive a group of law-abiding, tax-paying, patriotic, and peaceful Taiwanese citizens, Tai Ji Men, of their religions of belief, freedom, rights. A true democracy government should provide transitional justice for all victims of past human rights violations, regardless of when this human rights abuse occurs. Therefore, I believe that Taiwan's parliament has the responsibility to pass reasonable legislation to correct loopholes in the current legal and tax system, ensuring the fairness and transparency of the tax system. Moreover, the parliament should strengthen the supervision of tax authorities to prevent abuse of power. At the same time, it should promote real legal and tax reforms, making laws and taxes more in line with social fairness and economic development needs, directly deriving from people and benefiting the people. Taiwan is facing national security crises such as low wages, high housing prices, inflation, no marriage, and low birth rates, combined with the chaos in parliamentary system. These issues cause excellent talents to leave, and foreign companies are hesitating to invest in Taiwan, severely impacting Taiwan's future. On today's International Day of Parliamentarism, we call on everyone on reflecting on the current situation and look forward to the future. As the youth of Taiwan, we hope for reform the parliamentary system, expecting no more fights or quarrels in the parliament. Everyone should discuss matters calmly, rationally, and objectively handle national bills effectively through a more transparent, fair, and effective parliamentary operation mechanism, ensuring Taiwan's stable development and democracy progress. Let us adhere to the concept of putting people first, work together to promote a sound and a fair parliamentary system, and make Taiwan a truly democratic and lawful country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for focusing on the necessity of reforms of the taxation laws in Taiwan. You quoted Professor Liang Fulung from Osnabrück University in Germany, who is also the initiator of the Legal and Tax Reform Alliance, and stated that the root of Taiwan's evil laws and taxes starts with the administrative units setting up bad laws, which are then voted on by the legislative yuan and finally executed by the administrative enforcement agency. Without starting the reforms from these bad laws, justice in Taiwan is impossible, he said. Truly implementing parliamentary oversight of government agencies is a pressing necessity in Taiwan. The compass of the legislative and executive powers should focus on government administrative units, should plan laws, and policies with the interest of the people, Thank you very much for your contribution. And now I will give the floor to Fletcher Wu, project manager. Floor is yours, Fletcher.
Thank you, Willie, and distinguished scholars, all the participants. Good day. And first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for inviting me to join this webinar. And I think this webinar is a good platform for us to freely express our feeling and our insights about human rights. And I've gained a lot from you today. And today I am honored to speak to you about the significance of the International Day of Parliamentarism and the insights we can gain from the Tai Ji Men case in promoting democracy and the rule of law. This day highlights the crucial role of Parliament in safeguarding citizens' rights, promoting the rule of law, and driving social progress. As someone who deeply values democracy, I have seen firsthand how Taiwan's parliamentary system plays a positive role in the Asia-Pacific region, but also faces significant challenges. Reflecting on my observations, I have often noticed that Parliament's efficiency and effectiveness are tested during major debates on bills. Taiwan's recent parliamentary reform bill left a profound impression on me, yet I believe there is much room for improvement. Transparency and accountability, which are claimed to be core values of Taiwan's parliamentary system, still fall short of the high standards set by the International Day of Parliamentarism. The Tai Ji Men case has been particularly eye-opening for me. This major case involving human rights and judicial justice underscores the challenges faced by Taiwanese parliament in promoting case resolution. Despite over 300 Taiwanese legislators voicing their support over the years, administrative officials' inaction has been disheartening. It seems a few individuals have hijacked the government, undermining the dignity of our parliament. The Legislative Yuan in Taiwan has played an important role in promoting many bills. However, it has not yet been able to overturn the Tai Ji Men case by addressing the misconduct of officials and systematic flaws. Even legislators face illegal tax persecution, making it difficult to stand up against the tax authorities. This case and others where taxpayers' human rights are violated show the urgent need for reform and judicial independence. I have come to understand that truth investigation involves revealing the truth by restoring the facts, which is vital for achieving justice. By holding violators accountable, we can ensure judicial trials are fair. In the investigation of the Tai Ji Men case, the Control Yuan found that Prosecutor Ho Kuan-len violated 8 major laws, including the principle of non-disclosure of investigations, and recommended that the Ministry of Justice strictly hold him accountable. However, due to mutual protection among officials, Ho Kuan-len was not punished and was even promoted to be the director of the Institute of Forensic Medicine. If Prosecutor Ho had been punished according to the law at the time, his various illegal and abusive actions might have been effectively curbed, preventing many of the victim cases he handled. The Tai Ji Men case, which has been unresolved for 28 years, might have been resolved much sooner. Furthermore, if the government had timely compensated the victims, restored their reputations, and provided economic support, it could have served as a warning to prevent similar infringements from occurring again. Unfortunately, the current situation in Taiwan, where officials intimidate the public by lawsuits and misuse taxpayer money, is far from ideal. Despite facing illegal tax persecution by the government, Tai Ji Men continues to promote conscience, love, and peace. I had the privilege of joining the Cultural Goodwill Group to Fiji in 2019, which was the 100th country visited by the group. We visited the Ministry of Education, Heritage, and Arts, where Dr. Hong shared principles of love, conscience, and cultural education. The minister deeply resonated with these ideas and invited us to bring the message of love and peace into the school, arranging for a cultural exchange the next day. When we arrived at the school, over 600 students welcomed us with enthusiastic singing. The principal expressed gratitude for our visit in her speech, emphasizing the importance of respect and love. Despite the language barrier, we connected through simple gestures and games, conveying the joy of love and sharing. Our Sifu always reminds us to maintain a childlike heart and spread happiness to others. This experience reinforced my belief in the power of love and peace to promote social harmony and international understanding. Taiwan's legislative yuan faces many problems that weaken its effectiveness. From my perspective, issues like lack of transparency, conflicts of interest, and strict party discipline hinder legislators from truly representing the government, from truly representing the public. Recent amendments, such as requiring the president to report to the legislator, are steps in the right direction, but more effort is needed to address these challenges and maintain social stability and development. In conclusion, Taiwan's parliamentary system plays a crucial role in promoting transitional justice through legislation, government oversight, and public participation. The Tai Ji Men case highlights significant issues in promoting human rights and realizing judicial justice. And as really you have once said, a strong parliament is the cornerstone of democracy, and the International Day of Parliamentarism is a day to evaluate the effectiveness of parliaments in fulfilling their duties. The rights of taxpayers in Taiwan are regarded as an indicator of human rights development, but in reality, they are not respected. We call on President Lai Ching-te to implement tax human rights protection to ensure Taiwan's international human rights reputation will not be criticized due to the improper handling of the Tai Ji Men case. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Fletcher, for stressing that the transparency and accountability that Taiwan claims to value in its parliamentary system still fall short of the standards set by the International Day of Parliamentarism. And you insisted that to truly protect citizens' rights, Taiwan needs to reform and improve the parliamentary system and maintain judicial independence without forgetting to strengthen the functions of supervision and accountability mechanisms. Many decision-making processes in the legislative yuan lack transparency, you said, making it difficult for the public to understand the specifics of the legislative processes. While I previously called on the new Minister of Finance, Mr. Su Jianrong, to discipline the National Tax Bureau, you call on the President Lai Ching-te to implement tax human rights protections to ensure that Taiwan's international human rights reputation will not be criticized due to the improper ongoing handling of the Tai Ji Men case. Let's hope that you and I will be heard. And I thank you for your contribution. So this second session about the disease is now coming to an end. And it will now be time to go to the conclusions that will be presented by Marco Respinti.
Thank you. As a way of concluding today's webinar, I wish to start elaborating on a few suggestions I uttered introducing the hybrid seminar organized on July the 1st, 2022 at the Renaissance Hotel in Washington, D.C. and online by CESNUR, the Center for Studies on New Religions and Human Rights Without Frontier, on effective parliamentarism and the Tai Ji Men case. Subsequently, I will remind our audience of the important fact-finding tour of the Republic of China in Taiwan done by a delegation of activists and scholars organized in April 2023 by Peter Winter, its parent organization CESNUR, and Human Rights Without Frontier during the 2023 edition of the International Forum of Freedom of Religion or Belief. The term parliamentarism indicates a political system where a representative legislative assembly elected by citizens operates in a state where powers are classically separated in three branches to secure democracy. The other two are, of course, the executive power and the judicial power. The name owes to the fact that the legislative body at the core of this system is called Parliament. While the parliamentary system started developing in 16th century England, the word parliament is originally French, Parlement, and has a glorious history dating back to ancient Greece and developing throughout the Middle Ages in Europe. The meaning of the word is quite clear and reveals the nature of the concept. Parlement is constructed on the verb that means to talk, and comes remotely from the assemblies where free citizens used to discuss topics relevant to the public life of the polis, the ancient Greek city-state, which also gives name to politics. In Rome, the same function was played by that august body that was called the Senate, a word meaning the assembly of the elder citizens, of the wisest and the most inclined to conserve customs and tradition in the Republic. The Roman Senate underwent many reforms in history and even distortion when unscrupulous rulers entered the scene, but no one ever dared to completely cancel it. This happened because of the awe, almost of a mystical nature, which has always accompanied that institution of true representation and democracy. So a parliament is the place where people meet and debate, evaluating proposals and eventually deliberating. This kind of ancient assemblies gave the tone of a lively and healthy society where citizens took part in the building of the common good. The presence of such an assembly is a vital sign of democracy, being not a political regime, but a way of exerting political power centered on the constructive participation of citizens. Those variously named ancient forms of democratic participation to the public life evolved in what we now call parliaments. They were always political bodies, but in a rather different and deeper sense of the word, in comparison to the usual and current meaning, which basically refers to partisan politics. This is clearly showed by the remote Latin origin of the word behind the French Parlement, Parlamentum. It was applied to different institutions. For example, to the assembly of all the abbots of the Cistercian order of monks in Catholic Middle Ages, or the place that political rulers used for negotiations and where they met foreign delegates. This meaning entered the text of the medieval mother of all representative body politics, including the modern, or the Magna Carta in 1215 England. Parliaments were always home to real politics. They became a bicameral legislative body in the strictest sense, again in medieval England after Magna Carta, with the word slowly assuming its modern restricted meaning. Let me just add here a sense of bleakness in seeing how and how often modern parliaments have transformed from those revered places of respectable discussions, even of gentlemen disagreements, to arenas where politicians fight with fists and kicks, live on camera and with no shame. Today, no single democratic regime lacks a parliament. Even monarchic countries have parliaments, and for sure this is not only an invention of modern times. Like all democratic countries, the Republic of China in Taiwan has also a parliament. It is called Legislative Yuan, unicameral and composed of 113 members whom Taiwanese citizens elect every 4 years. All of us know it quite well. We have studied it, and many of us also saw it in practice during the visit of the delegation of scholars and activists that I previously mentioned. On that occasion, we similarly deepened our knowledge of a very peculiar and important institution of Taiwanese democracy, the Control Yuan. This is a supervisory and auditory body of the government that functions as a checker on public officials. Our delegation had 2 long separate public conversations with the president of the Legislative Yuan, Yu Shi-kun, and the president of Control Yuan, Chen Chu. Given the international nature of that delegation, which also met the press and some NGOs of the civil society, the public words uttered by the 2 presidents of the Legislative Yuan and the Control Yuan had an international character and appeal. Questions were put, answers were given, facts were analyzed, perspectives were designed, problems were presented, considerations were offered. Thus, more than 1 year later, it is time to reappraise the finding of that tour and the words that were spoken. The UN International Day of Parliamentarism is indeed a perfect occasion. To the benefit of the delegation, President Yu Shi-kun proudly underlined that the Republic of China, Taiwan, ranks number 2 in Asia, number 18 in the world for its respect of human rights, according to Freedom House. He agreed that this doesn't, of course, mean that everything in the Republic of China, Taiwan is perfect, while the delegation surely agreed in concluding that it is a sufficiently sound and honorable basis for specific improvements. Remaining errors and injustice could be redressed, including the Tai Ji Men case. It is quite safe to say more than 12 months after the meeting that President Yu Shi-kun had no problem in sharing this view. The delegation of scholars and activists felt, in fact, quite encouraged and comforted by his openness and availability to confront difficulties and complications calmly and seriously. Similarly, President Chen Chu appeared quite committed to the same endeavor. Reaffirming that the Republic of China in Taiwan abides by the rule of law, he repeated that solution to injustice must always come from a serene approach to misdeeds, not remitting responsibilities, but searching for middle ways that may compensate wrongdoings on one side and on the other, had not required public officials in the Taiwanese government and bureaucracy to renounce to the separation of powers and the law of the land. The delegation listened to everything with much interest and also, I should say, some concern. The Republic of China in Taiwan, we all know, is a bastion of democracy in a geopolitical space of the world where democracy is rare, often abused or totally neglected. Members of that delegation do not engage in politics, but they were also not naive at the point of ignoring that the Republic of China in Taiwan is a strategic and indispensable partner of the West against rogue states. The members of the delegation, understanding the West as the geopolitical space where a decent level of human rights and religious liberty is respected, and when not, a place where citizens can effectively and freely challenge power. The Republic of China in Taiwan is in fact proud of being a defender of human rights and religious liberty, and this meant a lot for a delegation whose main interest and focus was religious liberty. The case of Tai Ji Men is being widely and increasingly discussed internationally, as the president of the legislative yuan and control yuan acknowledged 1 year ago. Thus, the Tai Ji Men case is the real litmus test of the important public and international commitment displayed 1 year ago by the presidents of the legislative yuan and the control yuan. Yet, a full year and plus passed, and the situation of that paramount and emblematic case is still frozen. Nothing substantial happened since the words of the presidents of the legislative yuan and control yuan. Nothing moved forward. Nothing changed, nothing improved. The case is still all there, intact, as absurd as it is. A spiritual movement is still denied after almost 28 years its right to religious liberty after having been accused first and then found not guilty of a non-existent fiscal fraud and fraudulent practices, as all levels of the Taiwanese justice repeatedly ruled. However, tax harassment continued as a perverse punishment for a crime that was never committed. More than 1 year ago, that delegation of scholars and activists met the presidents of the legislative yuan and control yuan. They both seemed very reasonable. All needed, of course, to be discussed further in practical details, but after more than 14 months, none of this has been done. Meanwhile, after the 2024 elections, the legislative yuan has a new president, while the president of the control yuan remains the same. So we call now again on the new presidents of the legislative yuan and on the president of the control yuan to follow up along the lines discussed in our 2023 meetings and quickly move in the direction of doing all that is in their institutional power to solve the Tai Ji Men case once for all. The offices of the two presidents are political in the best sense and are committed to a centuries-old heritage that operate for the common good of all citizens. Until it solves the Tai Ji Men case, the Republic of China in Taiwan will keep on showing the entire world the evident stain that tarnish its otherwise elegant democratic suit, and the authority of the Taipei's parliaments, heir to an old noble tradition of discussion and problem solving, will remain sadly diminished.
So thank you, Marco Respinti, for this conclusion. And as usual in our webinars, we conclude with a musical video that can now start.
二官下台！二官下台！
About the Tai Ji Men case, Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men not guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on the promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Officials' conscience, where are justice and human rights? What is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the real government officials' conscience? Where are justice and human rights? Is the truth about the Tai Ji Men case? Taiwan Supreme Court found Tai Ji Men guilty of tax evasion or any other charges. The National Tax Bureau and the Ministry of Finance reneged on their promise to revoke the tax bill. The National Tax Bureau illegally auctioned off the sacred land of Tai Ji Men. The land was illegally taken into state ownership. Where is the real government officials'